we're back at it. At this point, everyone knows what it is when they see these faces. Thank you all so much for tuning in once again. With me, as always, my co-host, the brains behind the operation, the looks behind the operation.
Stop
Mr.
it.
Sam Allen in the building.
Stop
Sam,
it.
what's good?
Man, happy to be here. Happy New Year to everyone. Excited to jump the New Year off right.
Yeah, this is starting to get fun, man. We're starting to hit 2 of these a week. This is enjoyable, man. Thank you as always for being here, for making this show have some sense and not just be the jumbles of my thoughts. And today, ladies and gentlemen, words can't describe the excitement, the feelings in the air. I bought a lottery ticket this morning just in case, because I'm like, we're lucky if we got this guy on the show. You never know. Hopefully tomorrow I'm a multi-millionaire. We'll see. In the building today, we've got one of my favorite human beings on the planet. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of background on this gentleman. Goes by the name of D.W. Posley Jr., straight out the Shy. D.W., superstar player, high school at Homewood Flossmoor Community High in Flossmoor, Illinois, where he starred and scored double-digit points, 10.3 a game, 6.5 assists, 5 rebounds, 3.3 steals. He was an honorable mention all-area player, took his team to multiple state tournaments, was selected all SICA East, and was chosen as the league's defensive player of the year. He went to JUCO at John A. Logan College in Centerville, Illinois, was an honorable mention All-American in 2006 and 7, averaged over 17 points a game, 5.3 assists, 4.2 boards, basically NBA 2K stats, and led his team to a national ranking of 6th in the nation. Outstanding 28-4 record while there. He then transferred to the UC Santa Barbara, where I had the pleasure of playing with this young man.
There he is.
At that point, he was very quickly the heart and soul of our team, especially on the defensive end, where he had a 10-year-old record-tying game with 6 steals in a single game. One of the most talented, athletic defensive guards I've ever seen and ever had the pleasure of playing with. Ladies and gentlemen, I would get into what you're doing right now, but honestly, it's over my head, so I'll wait to ask you about it. Welcome to the show, Mr. D.W. Posley Jr. What's good?
Man, appreciate it. It's been a while since I've heard basketball stats, man. So it's just like exciting to like come at this conversation from that perspective. So,
Yeah,
you're dealing with some other stats nowadays, huh?
Man, it's big time. I'm looking at all the numbers, but I mean, mentally and financially, really is our priority. But overall, spiritually, and we get into the physical. So that health.
Love to see it.
And we're gonna get into. I'm gonna let you steer on everything that you've got going on right now. Successful serial entrepreneur, one of the sharpest minds that I know in the Digicoin, DigiWallet, fintech space. Also, co-creator of the Locos program for the TBT, the brains behind it, the founder of it, of which I hope I'll get to assist with. Just doing so many spectacular things. And what I really love about you and the perspective you've taken, it's not about just taking over corporate America and making millions and billions, but there's always a goal in mind with every endeavor that you intake, and it's to help your community, it's to help Black and brown folks, it's to help young athletes. Really the biggest reason why we knew we had to get you onto the show. So D-Dub, thank you so much for being here, brother. And without further ado, I'm gonna jump right into it. First question is, when did your basketball journey begin?
So I was told when I was born, my dad put a basketball in my crib. So I come at it from the perspective of like really his playing career, because so much of that, his ideology, the way he played, I mean, as you guys know, having a dad that is a part of your career, like they have their perspective, they have the things, some of their experiences that they put on you and put you in that bubble of an athlete. And so really as long as I can remember, once we moved to the suburbs, my dad had a rim in the front of the house. Like he facilitated us playing ball with the kids in the neighborhood. So I mean, really since I was say one if I put a time on it. But so much of that just like being ingrained as a basketball player.
Say, do you have an earliest basketball memory?
My earliest memories, I really put them mostly to outside our house as a kid. I mean, because we had a rim in the front. My dad also had like a portable rim that he used to put them in the street. All right. And so we would create like a full court with the kids in the neighborhood, like in the middle of the street. And so always was playing against for guys 5, 6, 7 years older. So just those and him, if it's like a bunch of older kids, he would play it. It would be us three, me and my brother and him, and then against whatever 2 or 3 guys to kind of make it even. But really, I say the driveway. All right, like the driveway is my earliest memory, and so I'm appreciative of the environment I was able to live in, to be able to enjoy being outside and getting shots up, etc.
Did you play any other sports, or was it singularly basketball straight out the gate, nothing else?
So I played baseball and football. Baseball is actually was my favorite sport. And so this question is always unique because I ended baseball when one of my god brothers died of a heart attack. And that coincided with when we picked up our summer camps participation. So my brother wasn't a huge fan of baseball. We were always in camps during the summer. So we chose basically going to basketball camps over playing baseball. So that was around 5th, 6th grade. So we had won a lot in baseball. But then we played football all up into for me, 7th grade, because I was, when I aged out to play my 8th grade year. So going into high school, I had a decision. It was basketball camp started a day, which I knew, and then football camp started that same exact day. So I found out at basketball camp that football camp was going on. And I mean, I had won a couple of Super Bowls. Like I played quarterback and receiver, DN and corner. So I played. Like very rarely high school football players have actually played football. But had I had essentially that gap year, it wasn't like in my blood anymore. And then I'm like, I'm not doing 2 a days.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Yo, freshman year, like you basketball camp, and that started the same day as football camp. So you think I'm gonna leave from here? Like, yeah, it wasn't for me. It wasn't.
That's really cool. You never really see like a fork in the road like that, where like you can go one of 2 ways, and then not know how it affects your life, like 10, 15, 20 years later.
Right.
Literally, and I tell you, like my best friends still get on me. Actually, both of them, because they play football at HF, and they make, because I mean I'm pretty athletic. I was small, but I was athletic. I was long, and I played football. Played it very well. I mean for years. So like they didn't have that in their team. Like they just had people who athletes. So because we were like on the cusp of it, when we were really good, but we had them as mid-major, high-major players. But we needed more people who knew the game. And so they always are on me about not playing in high school. But I mean, I look at my life, it turned out well. But I wouldn't have been as thin coming out of high school had I played football, for sure. Know that. But yeah.
How did you decide? Did you flip a coin in the moment? That's a big decision, I feel like, for a young athlete, and you were good.
I mean, I was there. I was literally at basketball camp. I found out at basketball camp, and I hadn't played football in over a year.
Okay.
Right. So that trend, it was like, all right, I guess I'll continue to not play football.
Yeah. Thank the Lord you were there, man. If you had not have been there, we wouldn't have met.
Literally, because the path would have been so different for sure. Like the path.
He was just standing outside the gym, like looking at the basketball court and then looking at the football court.
Well, I'm here, so
that one looks kind of far. Ooh, they running liners right now.
It's crazy you say that. I didn't know that about you playing football and nonetheless QB. And now, as I think about your playing style, you were so shifty, as if you were, if you were juking out
exactly
tackles. So, man, I see the carry, I see the crossover in the way you play and move.
Exactly. That's directing and coming at you full speed.
And then you led the team in charges too, didn't you?
I did not. I had a mid-range. I had a floater game. I had a pull-up. I was going to drop us. I was going to go 2 feet up, straight up.
What about taking the charges?
Huh?
Taking the charges.
Yeah. I mean,
you just missed the contact, right? There's something about the contact, it makes you feel alive.
I'm gonna cut you off at half and square you up and take that charge before you come full speed down the middle.
I got you.
I'm gonna get there early.
That's how you get punched on. You don't want to do that.
Get punched on. that's not your boy at all.
Was there a age or a game in your memory where you realized I'm a little bit more athletic than the average kid?
It was when I could dictate how I wanted to play and emulate that, right? So I remember when it was me and a guy, his name Greg Lawson. We was in elementary school. I was like 4th or 5th grade, and he was like a 7th, 8th grader, but he was the point guard on the team. And at that time, that's when the Bulls was playing John Stockton, Karl Malone. So we would play 2-on-2 in the school, and no one could beat us because I could emulate Stockton so well and put him in position for Karl. So I became like an immaculate passer, but I did that intentionally. So like, it doesn't matter who played us, we were going to beat them because we was going to pick and roll in the depth, pull them out, just be able to create a playing style off. And then, so I emulated that. And, so I would say around 5th grade, and then the camps helped because we traveled pretty far in the Midwest for sure. We tried to make it to Jordan camp. We got a chance to go 1 year. I forgot what happened why we didn't come, but so Santa Barbara is always in my future. But it's going to camps, and it was a goal to try to win every trophy, right? So 1-on-1, 3-point, MVP, defensive player, and championship. Like that was my goal, to see how many of, and then I would get pissed when they wouldn't give me one just because I had all the
Right. You led in every category, and they were just like, the parents aren't gonna like if you go home with 10 trophies, so we're gonna throw Bradley a little.
They trying to run a business. They can't have, how that look? He walking out the camp. My kid's crying. How's that look? They gotta run a business.
You got a little cart behind them carrying the trophies.
And I'm winning the 3-on-3. I'm winning the 5-on-5. Like every team thing and individual. Like, cause that's you do what you do, and then you just don't like to lose, right? And so that's where I felt more so than athletically, where I was just mentally stronger, and my body could for a long time keep up with my mind. Right. And so, because I always say it from a young kid, I played the game mentally first, because I couldn't compete physically. I was always smaller. So I was just going to outthink you and allow my effort to continue to follow. So I was able to do that early. And it was funny, more recently, I've watched some tapes of me playing in those camps, et cetera. I was like, gosh, I'm like, man, like you really competed. Like you played basketball, like you did the basketball plays. Yeah. And so that's what my stats show. Played the same way all the day, everywhere. Yeah.
You grew up in Illinois, but you mentioned talking about playing like Stockton and Malone, and like, isn't that the middle of Chicago? Isn't that kind of blasphemy? We got Jordan and Pippen down the street.
I mean, because it's because it was like I said, it was the mastery of the game.
Okay.
Right? Because at
skills,
that time, right, we had played them a couple of years, so it's like, all right, I already played like Pippen and Jordan. Like that was just a part of what we grew up learning. Like I was fortunate to have season tickets for the entire run, right? Wow. So being able to see that and be in person for those games is like, I understood that you only step on the court to win, and we're going to pick you up 94 feet and we're going to attack you 94 feet, and we're going to do it as a team. You know what I mean? Playing to each other's strengths. And as I grew older, I understood that I wasn't going to be 6'6" and jumping over everybody.
Ow.
Right? You know what I mean? or 6'7" with 7 foot with a wingspan, right? So once I understood that I actually couldn't play like Scotty and Pippen, I found individuals like GP, like Jason Kidd specifically, and later Steve Nash, et cetera, who I started to mold my game after, because I'll say early, one of the most impactful playing competitions I did was small fry. Small fry really, really changed and molded my game to really be a complete basketball player. Where more so I appreciate
local youth league. What is that?
Oh, so wow, small fry. Okay, so small fry is a international competition for people 5'1" and under, 13 and under.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, and so I actually so Maurice Acker, I don't know if you guys know, from Marquette, plays in France. Acker. Yeah, one of my teammates, he actually introduced me to small fry. That's me and him, Matt. We've been playing together since like 5th, 6th grade. A couple other guys from that team. We have even behind us played that Kevin Dillard played. He played at Dayton. He actually came to Chubb as well. We had a few. DJ Cooper from Ohio. He was in the home with Flossmoor kind of tutelage. But yeah, my 2 years, I was 44-5. We lost to the one team 5 times. With an international championship my second year, and Constellation the first year. And yeah, so I got the scoring record. I had the scoring record for a game, a quarter, field goals, but it was at that time I played the 5 that day. So I was in the middle of the 1-3-1, like snatching everything, right? You know what I'm saying? So I just had a bunch of layups, a bunch of little pull-ups, and so I was in the middle on the offense. So I got the ball where I could turn and be aggressive. But you appreciated playing with your back to the basket. Me being long, because I was right at 5'1", I had to actually learn how to play with my back to the basket. I had to understand the foundation of rebounding and playing where everyone who's talented, but at different levels of like really the same height. So yeah, small fry.
I love that. I think that's essential for young players, is to, a lot of times you hear about the reverse. I was tall, so they didn't allow me to play guard. But that's one that's also essential, is when you're going to be a guard, to still get the experience of playing some forward, of being forced to rebound, of playing with your back to the basket. You never want to limit your tutelage, because you don't know what team you'll end up playing on and what needs that team will have. And if you can fill in gaps, you'll always have a job, or a role, So
absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I pride in my. So it's that forming as like I say, I mean, really thinking back here in my stats, like that forming was big in how I leveraged who I was with the skill sets I had to impact game.
Yeah. And then let's jump to the high school stages, man. You played on a dominant high school team. I looked up and saw that you guys even played against Oak Hill, I believe, and you had to go up against Kevin Durant, and you held your own. You had a good game. Can you describe Flossmoor? Can you describe the high school years and just what that was like?
I was just recently told that Jet Magazine did an article around how unique Homewood Flossmoor is, right? As a school, as a smorgasbord, et cetera. I mean, even funny, I think about the success of what emanates out of Homewood Flossmoor. My time in Santa Barbara, I only knew it to be 3 people from Chicago, and all 3 of them were males from Homewood Flossmoor athletes, right? Me and 2 other guys. Like, no one else I knew from Chicago, that even Illinois, right? And they were from my high school, right? So I think that's kind of just a snippet of the school itself and the uniqueness. But you look at my junior year, right? Barely played, but when I played, you see what I produced. And I had a D1 scholarship before ever starting my senior year. Wow. Right? Our JV team that year, where it's different, because we have freshman A and B, we have sophomore, and we have a JV team, and we have varsity, right? So I played freshman A, always in the summer play with varsity, right? Always play with varsity. Sophomore, I got moved up, Christmas, et cetera, playoffs. JV, like I didn't lose JV my sophomore, junior year, didn't lose a game in JV.
Wow.
right? Like our JV team both years could have been top 10 in the state, in the city, like just without the seniors. Both years, sophomore and junior year, right? And because I would say my junior year JV team, we had just in our starting five, we had UCSB, you had Vanderbilt and Xavier, you have Colorado, who started at St. Louis and went to Colorado. You had University of Illinois Springfield, you had DePaul, you had Illinois State walk on, you had Dartmouth, big man, you had UIS, big man, and like wing, and then you had I want to say 2 D1 football players.
Jeez, stacked.
Like,
would you recommend kids going to the school that has all the talent and having iron sharpen iron every day, or
play with the best players? Play. I mean, that's gonna always be my history and my conversation. You play with the best players, right? Like our senior year, I averaged 10. I was the second leading scorer on the team. We had a All-American Mr. Basketball. He averaged 10.9. Mm-hmm. We had 5 players that averaged over 9 points my senior year. Mm-hmm. Right? Like with guys who were going high major that came off the bench.
Right. And Mr. Basketball, that was Julian Wright? Correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah.
Tough.
And so, right.
I played against him years later in Italy. Tough. Jeez, he's a problem.
And so he was a point guard his junior year. He played point guard. Senior year, he was able to be a point forward because I played more. And but for being prepared, like even in our junior year, we had it's a big regional paper did a feature article on our second team due to how well we competed, the amount of talent, and like the competitiveness that we had between those two groups, right? And so I'll always say that playing against D1 players in practice made it easy to play against regular teams. Yeah. So as you mentioned, like we play Oak Hill, that's Ty Lawson, Eric Devendorf, Bamba Falls. Casey Rivers was hurt, so we used to talk about him because one of my guys from high school went to Clemson, so they used to call us talking mess, but we beat them. So it's his fault for being hurt. And then Jamont Gordon from South Carolina, a big point guard, being 6'5", 230. Like he was the problem. Like he was the one that gave us a problem. See, like our matchup with him was a lanky 6'7", but not as quick, right? So I stuck Eric Devendorf most of the game, and then we went into our press. We were down 10 going into the fourth, 8 minutes, and they just got caught the clamps, and we was just at their head, and because we watched Monte Ellis go give them so many buckets the day before, right? But they beat him. But I mean, obviously Monte Ellis, especially being from the Bay, like he was all right hand. But you couldn't stop him from going from his right hand. It's nothing.
So much speed.
It's so much speed and athleticism, right? But for us, like we came at them from every position. Like that was the uniqueness about us. We were long, we were skilled, and we were gonna attack you at every position like you were gonna attack us. And so I have my game, 14, 4, 4, and 4. I mean, impact the game in every way.
A Jay-Z album, man, just 4, 4, 4. Yeah.
And again, that's a fact. It's not something I'm not making up. You know what I mean? And that was in front of Bill Self, right? Like that was like from KU. He was there. It was a late.
Which is where Julian ended up going, correct?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And so we was there to midnight, and like put it on them. So I scored the bucket, the bucket to get us within 1. Julian hit the free throws, 2 free throws to win the game.
Amazing. That's
awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, so high school, I mean, I really sum it up as untapped potential, because we should have won state. Like we lost to Sean Livingston when Sean Livingston came into play like he was the number 4 pick in the draft. He went for 28, and it was a pro 28. It wasn't like I'm going and just putting up a lot of buckets. It was big buckets, mid-range turnarounds, like pull-up threes. Yeah. He did it at every level to go be a number 4 pick. That year we had beat another top 25 in the country team in the playoffs to get there. So we ended the year top 25 in the country, even losing in the state championship. Then senior year. A lot
about Illinois because he was at Peoria, correct?
Correct. Yeah, he was at Peoria Central. And then so coming out that next year, I remember it to this day. Coach asked us at the banquet, "Do you guys like?" They talking about us playing Oak Hill next year. We was mad. He was making it think it was a question. Like, bro, they actually can we play the number 1 team in the nation? Absolutely. Like that's what you live to do. Get the opportunity to do what we did. Right. And so that year we end up having like 3 of the top 5 teams in the country in our area. Right. We had Thornton, who was ranked number 1 after we beat Oak Hill, and then Hillcrest, where Maurice Acker, Darrell McNeil both went to Marquette play. At Thornton, it was Javon Catron from Oregon. And then they had Donnell Lyons and Brandon Dagans, and they had Mustafa Farrakhan that played at Virginia. And they had another D1. So they were loaded as well. All of us, like us and Thornton is in the same SIG East, and then Hillcrest was in the conference right over, but we were all like right around. So it was a lot of talent. National talent. Yeah, it was a lot of. So I mean, you needed to load up.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, man, that's a great transition into. We're the same age, so I remember all of these names and all these individuals. And throughout my lifetime, I've played against so many absurdly talented players from the city of Chicago. Ty Hazelton, who Western Kentucky.
His brother goes to our school. He's at HF now.
You know, I remember everybody was watching Sean Dockery on Chicago Preps. Will Bynum was not even talked about and turned out to be an NBA guard and an absolute killer. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about just being a basketball player in Chicago, coming up in the 90s when the Bulls are winning everything, and then all this talent, man? Did you feel like?
I mean, I got names for you: Quinn Richardson. And Dennis Gates, who went to and Dennis Gates, who went to Cal. Like, so I was actually like Dennis' younger brother was one of my good friends, Darius Gates, and so we used to play football together. Right, that's because he ended up playing football in the United States. So we played football together. That's how we met. And so meeting Dennis and Armand, who are both excellent coaches right now. I think Armand is at Nebraska. Dennis is the head coach at Cleveland State. And seeing them with that like Whitney Young team. And so like I say that Whitney Young team because they were like the staple of the 98 Whitney Young team. National champions, I want to say it's 38-1. Had Quinn Richardson, Najib Echols was a young freshman. They went Cordell Henry from Marquette. Dennis Gates played at Cal. So like they were loaded, like absolutely loaded. But then you have the Julian with Sean Dockery versus Crane with Will Bynum for Florentino, Lorenzo Thompson, both went to DePaul. Sharon Collins went to KU, freshman on that team. And so it's like you have so much talent and it's spread out. So it's like consistent. So I remember we used to always go Horizon West tournament. We used to go watch Whitney Young. We really followed that Whitney Young team. And then Michael Wright was at Farragut there from Arizona. Bobby Simmons was at Simeon when that team was there. Because Bobby went to DePaul with Q, right? So these are all pro guys who are just loading up. Courtney Maggette from and in his time at Fenwick, that playing in that 98 year. So it was just really awesome because it made elite a standard.
Right. Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
I think that was really what it is. And so you understood early the level you had to play at in order to be considered or get an opportunity. Right. And so I think that's the elite as a standard is how we looked at it. So I mean, and there was other guys that was trying to come into my school who were top in the country, top in the state, just from like their family relationships. Like we didn't have transfers for like opportunity. You transferred to our school, you lived in the area, right? Because they were kicking you out. Like they don't care.
We had too much talent already. Yeah.
Right.
I love the way you put that though, that elite was the standard, because I think there's two responses to that, right? Some folks would feel like, oh man, there's an absurd amount of talent here. How am I ever going to climb to the top? And then the proper response, and the one that you and so many guys out of the city had, was like, yeah, if I can play here, I can play anywhere. And so we all can get it. So I think that's fantastic, man. Never shy away from those top tier names, top tier talent. I remember coming up in Oakland, there were also a lot of superstars, and I was an absolute nobody for the majority of my prep career. But Allende Ubaka was at Ohio and went to Cal. Deion Poe went to Cal and to the league. Quinn Richardson went to North Carolina, won multiple national championships. And these were all friends and brothers. But when I had the opportunity to play against these guys, I actually took it more seriously. You know what I mean? And was like more mean on the court, more hungry, because I'm thinking to myself, hey, I know this guy's a star. You know, Arizona's at the game, you know. Everybody in the Pac-12 wanted to recruit. At that time, Pac-10 wanted to recruit Allende. And I got to go against him, you know, every summer. And I'm thinking to myself, if I can play against Allende, that means I'm a Pac-10 guard. You know, mentality-wise, don't try to dominate in your small pool. Go right after these juggernauts. And, you know, if there's a way to make it and a way to really hone yourself, it's to go after these top-tier names.
If you want to swim in the ocean, go play in it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Sam, who was that guy in the city that was kind of like the flag bearer and the standard for dominance in the city? Do you remember?
We had a couple pretty good bigs. Dior Lohorn went to Reardon. And then a couple guys ended up playing in the Philippines. So Marcel Lassiter, he's out in the Philippines doing his thing.
There was a guy Cal that had crazy, ridiculous bounce. I think he might have been there. Oh man, I'll run forever thinking about it. Did he go to Reardon? Crazy bounce. Was coming out the year like Devin Harden and those guys. Went to Cal for a few years. Anyway, maybe it'll come to me. We can do this all day. I won't drag it up. Okay, so you had a really, you know, a unique path. You went to multiple schools. Talk about coming into college at that level, and went, you know, D1 JUCO, then to UCSB. Can you talk about, let's start at the beginning, how you made the decision to go and play at Fort Wayne?
Yes. One, I'll say a level of immaturity of wanting to take my career in my own hands due to what my high school coach was doing. Right. Because like I experienced that political game. Right. And so I had to wait until my senior year, and I didn't want to risk my scholarship, like securing it. So I would say, well, one level of immaturity, but it was also, I mean, this experience when I was a congressional page going into my junior year, right? And so I missed an Iowa elite camp, right? Because back then, elite camps were almost like All-American camps when you were going into certain levels. And missing that year preparing for that high school season, that junior season, when we knew it was going to be a top team, it put myself at where I was like, I'm going to survive because I'm going to secure this scholarship, and I don't want to put it on your table or what you're going to do, because he wasn't trying to start me my senior year, like at all. I literally had to take my starting spot from a 6'5" junior guard who again played at Colorado, right? I mean, so he had okay scenario, but like, no, like I'm a senior, you wait here, and so if you're not gonna make my way, I will, right? And so that's what I did. So that's why I signed early, but the mistake, instead of where I was more probably a better prospect for prep school than anything, I just stuck to my guns of like, I'm gonna go here because I committed to here, because that coach got fired during the year, brought in Dane Fife midway through. just like me and him drove the same truck when I got to campus. So you think, you know what I mean?
I remember this story.
Right. Yeah. And so it was in who he was and is. I mean, he's now, I want to say, the associate head at Michigan State. He's been there for a while since he left IPFW, because now we are Purdue Fort Wayne, not Indiana Purdue Fort Wayne. It was just a unique transition where like it built me as a man and created the path to get to UC Santa Barbara, because like I would never regret anything prior to me getting to the campus of UC Santa Barbara. Like that's how I knew I was on the right path, because you can't get to Santa Barbara and not think anything else should have happened, right?
no accidents happened in Santa Barbara.
I can second that.
Right. And so I say it taught me that it was bigger than basketball. Right. Because very early I knew I was going to be in this space of doing business management for athletes. Like I knew I was going to be in that space. Right. So all of my decisions, I was able to, especially at IPFW, realize that it's bigger than basketball. Right now, I'll never forget my dad told me, he used to tell me, man, college should be fun. And I told him, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to leave, because I'm like, Dad, this is one thing you said about college is supposed to be fun, and this ain't it. Like, and so like, I want to have fun. Like if I'm gonna be here.
So you went the other way. Now I'm gonna go have all the fun now.
Well, so made the decision to leave, but before coming all the way out to the West Coast, you then did a year at a JUCO. And can you talk about that? I don't know much about JUCO ball, how that works. There. How was that year? What was your mindset? How'd you get there?
Perfect. All right. So I'm not a huge, like I do well in school, but I don't like being in school, right? So let's always understand. So at that time, if I transfer D1, I have to sit out, right? So I'm thinking about everything. I'm like, that ain't really, I'm not. Again, it would have been beneficial had my goal was to be a pro basketball player, et cetera. Then getting that knowingly that I'm gonna sit down, get stronger, get bigger, give us my belts, my body time to catch up, cool. But that wasn't my true north, right? So I was, let me get out playing so that basketball can pay for school, and let me, whatever I tap out at it, I tap out at it. So going into that year, I had D1s. I'm not really for it unless some major came. And I told my dad, I'm like, at this point, I'm still having a commitment to my current team. So I'm like, that I'm going to tell him I'm leaving before I have something, because this literally, I told him, like, I'll go JUCO, be an All-American, and go wherever I want to go. It's literally what I told my dad. So I walked in, my coach was on that with me. First workout of the spring, I told him, no, you won't see me again. So left the team.
How did he take that?
I mean, he ended up recruiting me again. So let's just say that that's the best way, right? He got over it, I believe.
In the moment, was he hurt though? Was he surprised? Did he see it coming?
Nah, I mean, because he knew he wasn't my fan, right?
Like you weren't his guy, right?
Huh? No, I wasn't his guy.
He was,
Right. He literally recruited a guy over me. Like he recruited a guy that I consistently beat out, right? Who was from a prep school, right? And so but again, I'm of the you put someone in front of me in my position, no matter what my inabilities are, I'm going to win this like competition, right? Whatever it takes. And at that point, I was like, I'm off of it. So fast forward past that conversation. I mean, obviously he like, why? But it was quick. It was smooth. He didn't fight for me to stay. And I had a great relationship with Brian Stinnett of Chicago Hoops, one of the larger online publications at the time. At this point, I was narrow on a JUCO, right? And we talked about Chipola down in Florida. We talked about Indian Hills. And so I kind of got a quick little thing. And so he told me about John Logan. Like, they setting up. They have a pretty nice team. They're near Carbondale, because my goal was when I go to JUCO, I wanted a college experience. So any school that was near a major school was high on my list. Happened to be John Logan. They had a 6'11" from Indiana coming in. They had a preseason All-American down there, and they just had some talent. I'm like, all right, that's the one. So middle of the week, I'm at IPW. I had set my schedule, only have class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I was back home in Chicago.
living. Okay.
Right. So I literally took the visit on like a Wednesday to Logan. And we called down, told him, because I got the number from Snet, called down, told him, hey, this is who I am, coming down to check out your school. Cool. Like, so we got down there. First time I met the coach. Like, again, I initiated this conversation. Told him I'm interested in coming here, heard X, Y, and Z. This is who told me about it, etc. Like, all right, cool. We may have some, but nah, we'll see. Wasn't committal at all. Like, he didn't have a scholarship. Come back after lunch, you're gonna play. 30 minutes into this pickup, I done won a couple of games. He stops, hey, come here, walks me to his office. So we're gonna offer you this much, this much per day for a stipend.
Stop! I don't want his ankles turned. He over here frying fish. Get Lisa and them out the accountant. Get them out the office. And we're gonna go ahead.
We didn't finish the pickup. Like, and I mean, I'm pulling them up to death. Locking up. Like, I mean, you know, that's just it was. And so, and that summer I had been playing. Well, because I committed first, right? And so it was just, I was looking for someplace, and again, I found the great scenario. It was by SIU Carbondale. And so they had a great team. It was an option to go to if they recruited me. So it worked. And then my brother
worked out how you wanted it to. At monster season,
yeah,
the team performed, you performed.
Yep.
How did you hear about Santa Barbara? How did you end up on that beach?
Man,
we become the crew that we became.
Coach Stock. Right. We had
Matt Stock, assistant coach for a long time at UC Santa Barbara, now in alumni.
Still there. It's still there. We were in Evansville, Indiana. It was our first shootout, JUCO shootout as a team, and I wasn't starting. I wasn't starting, so I was new. They had like a 6'5" jump out the gym guy at the 3, and they had some athleticism at the point. I came in, like picking up at half, like turning guys. I'm averaging like 4 or 5 steals every game. So, you know, I'm getting my layups, my pull-ups. So Coach Stock happens to be at that tournament, that first shootout, the first one of the game. I immediately won my starting spot after it started at the 3, but I got the ball at the end of the game. And Coach Stock was on me from the beginning of the year until I committed. And with that, I didn't know what Santa Barbara was. Like, I didn't really pay attention to the recruitment, but I just got consistent letters. I got consistent engagement. Like, he stayed in my conscious. And by the end of the year, we were setting up a visit. And I'm like, once I looked up Santa Barbara, I'm like, yeah, this is a great place. Yeah. So I had, hey, my whole family's gonna come, and let's see how long we can be here. And so we were there almost 3.5 days. I think it was 4 days and 3 nights or something like that. I mean, this is not standard. That's not a standard official. You don't get 4 people to go to Santa Barbara. They was paying for me to come out there. That's for sure. They was making sure I got a chance to come see the place. And it was my first visit. Right. And I will never forget. It looked like the place we had vacation in Palm Springs. Yeah. And to be able to have a campus look like that, the guys, you know what I mean, they like felt like friends and brothers and people that just were going to, and a great representation of a person, of a human being. And I asked God at that time, like, I want the best lifestyle, because I had bad interaction. I was able to party in Carbondale because I went down there to have fun. And so going to Santa Barbara, prior to even seeing it, it was like, I just want the best lifestyle. Like, what's the best lifestyle that you can offer me? I'll play out my time doing that. And anybody who knows about Santa Barbara like that was more than delivered upon on. And and so
Sam, do you remember your first time seeing campus, seeing Santa Barbara, and what that experience was like? What were you thinking?
Yeah, it was like a summer camp. Legit looks like a summer camp. I think the first time I came down was Halloween.
Oh my goodness.
Like
that was your
outside
introduction to Santa Barbara was Halloween?
Like
too extreme.
well, we moved my brother in right across from you.
Okay, yeah.
And then I think I was still in high school. I was like I must have been a junior or senior in high school. And I think I was a senior because Matt had already been there a year. And he's like, you should, if you're gonna come down, you might as well just come down on Halloween. I remember I mean we linked up. I remember because I came down with DJ, remember? And he was he dressed up like Ali, so my friend's Persian.
So this was 08? This was 2008?
Had to be 08, yeah.
Oh, sorry. So I mean,
no. 04. Sorry. We were freshmen.
05.
05.
05. Okay. 05. And so he's a Persian dude, so he's dark skinned. Borat was everything right around there. Oh, Ali G, it was Ali G. So he wore like a velour sweatsuit. But it was it was still 05, 06, so velour sweatsuits were kind of in. And Al looked up for, he's like, he didn't even get dressed up for Halloween.
You yourself.
You just came normally in your sweatsuit. Oh man.
It's your Friday fit. This is just your Friday fit. You're not fooling anybody.
How you would get on people for their Halloween fit.
Bro, but it was a thing. I mean, you gotta
it was and that was the one thing that Al came outside for was Halloween. And so he was gonna go out. He was gonna get on you for not doing what you were supposed to do, for sure.
Yep.
If your introduction to UCSB though, and it's no longer like this, I know they've scaled it down, but if your intro to UCSB at this time was Halloween, you must have thought we were all just degenerates. Like none of these people are doing anything.
How you get anything done?
Like they're never gonna make it. They're not gonna amount to anything.
Literally, that's like my face. Like Halloween, like Jesus, like it's in our lease. You can't even bring people during Halloween. Like so, you go
off the entrance to like Isla Vista, where all the students live. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow. And I should ask, what other schools were you considering? Because at this point, it was name. So
yeah, so it was like Western Kentucky, Idaho, Air Force. It was what's the school out in? Because Pat Kennedy was there. It was out in Baltimore, I think. I forget that was one. Northern was a school I had set up a visit with. I had like 3 or 4 other visits set up, and
you just canceled them.
I didn't. They all canceled on their own, like literally, like each one, like Pat Kennedy.
He came from
they
Santa
wanted
Barbara.
a big man.
It's bad.
It was just because that was my first one, and so like my brother was like, "Yeah, you need to soft commit," because my freshman year I only went to one place, so again, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that again. I'm gonna go see everything, and every single other visit closed, and it was Dennis Gate at Northern. Once he called me, it was a Friday night. He called me like, "Yeah, I miscalculated our offers. We had to give it to one other, so we don't have an offer available." I called Coach Williams the next day. I'm like, once I was like, I can't come because it was what Northern had football and tailgate. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the things that, obviously it was close to home, but it had football and tailgating, which was Santa Barbara didn't offer because I really wanted the tailgating experience. But it was like once they didn't have a scholarship, I'm like, oh God, okay, I see. Thank you. Coach, they still had the scholarship open. And that was
serious ways, man. It's an interesting thing though, because I remember that time period, and I think a lot of people in hindsight have told me, man, your college experience and your college recruitment would have gone completely differently had you waited to the late period to commit. I committed early, beginning my senior year.
Yeah,
but they don't understand the mental space. I had gotten badly injured that summer. It's my wrist up really badly. And these things start to happen. You start to think, man, I'm one injury away from not even playing college ball, from not even getting a scholarship, from not even getting an offer, right? Or, we had a brand new coach my senior year, which is a really scary thing. You waiting 3 years to be the man. Now it's facing here, you have no chemistry relationship with him. You don't know how the year is going to go. And it's like, man, maybe we underperformed this year, and even the schools I already have fade away. So it's just such a tricky thing to time that right and get that process right. It's kind of.
I mean, I think it's always understanding what's your goals, right? And if you make decision based on like what's your goals, it may not be the sexy or the highs or whatever, but it's the one that's for you. And I think that's at that time frame, understanding like how you like what's that true north really. And for me, like I said, it was always me to do this. And with that, it was easy not to have to go get the biggest thing, because I need school paid for it. More importantly, I need school paid for it, and I need to be able to get a chance to play D1, because that's going to give me the best opportunity to get a great education in an environment I'm gonna have a bunch of fun. All right, like that's more so why D1 than just the status. Like the D1 are the big schools with the large alumni bases, you know what I mean, which is all those intangible things that you get, and that on-campus experience that other schools don't provide.
Great advice. When
did you know you wanted to get into that? Like you mentioned it a couple of times, like I've always known I wanted to get in financial advising.
So when I was 7, I asked God to come into my life, right? And he told me he would build a campus for athletes to transition. Right. And so at 7, I first thought it was being an agent. Right. So that was it until I looked and when I noticed when the stories start breaking more about athletes going broke, it wasn't really the agent's realm. Right. The agent's realm is mostly to bring the money in. Right. For your talents. Right. For your talents. And now most of the time it was a friend, right, who was helping you manage, allocate, and scale and or protect that money. All right. So it was a huge gap, right? Because you got this professional that's going to get his 3%, is going to work to make sure his 5% is as high as it can possibly be. All right. But you got people, and now, I mean, because even sometimes financial advisors, but at the end of the day, and like I don't say, because I'm not a financial advisor anymore, more of a business manager, because like you have to now look at your lifestyle as a business, right? And financial advising really only covers a piece of it, because they help just invest into stocks and bonds. Most of the investments as a person is what's your expenses, what's your lifestyle, what's those lump sum investments you're going to make into things that you're actually going to want to be involved with. Right. And most of those things that you get to a financial advisor, you aren't going to be involved with generally. Right. So that's once I identified that really around like 7th, 8th grade, that led. So I started working with my parents. They had also agencies. So that was my high school intern and work opportunities every summer. Worked in those offices. And so I got a firsthand experience and engagement there. And then, so it always managed how my relationship. So our first few years in high school, we had our own like high school team. Like my dad had his own AAU team. So helping recruiting, right? So I did most recruiting for those teams, right? At that age, I assembled those teams. We made the conscious decision my sophomore year to have an HF traveling team, right? Because we saw Chris Head with the Westinghouse teams with David Bailey, Cedric Banks, Martell Bailey, all UIC and Scott and Loyola grads. They have went and competed for a national championship at AAU and competed for a state championship. Right. So it was like we sacrificed that year for the betterment of our high school team. And the fruits was a number 2 state championship run, you know what I'm saying? A second place state championship run. All right. And so that intentionality around finding a way to be me, right, in the same sport. Right. So making those decisions from a business perspective, like even with Jew, like the company as I run, it's called Lottery Pick Digital. It first launched when I was a junior in high school. Right. And one of the first engagements we had was setting up a photo shoot at our house for Julian. This is when he's just on his climb, getting to be, I think at that time he was number 13 our junior year in the country. So and we had, I'm like, yeah, you're slated to be a lottery pick. So let's get you in this. Let's start that brand and start that mantra. So that way in 2 years, 3 years, you become a lottery pick, which happened. He was number 13 pick.
What did that entail? Were you helping out with his marketing? Were you helping him?
At that point, just from the high school perspective, I was helping the company, not necessarily with him directly. Like, so we were identifying other athletes and we had an energy drink, we had apparel, so that we were producing to scale around that brand, right? And it was less working with him, but having that experience to be able to work and do what we're doing systemically, institutionally now, right? And he's a part of that, right? Because we have that full circle moment of being able to identify correctly a lottery pick and prepare them and introduce them to what's a photo shoot. We probably arguably had his first photo shoot ever. Wow. All right. And so those type of things, giving young athletes now the opportunity to experience of Hall of Famers lifestyle in a manner where now they can learn who they are within that space, right? Because quote unquote, that pressure is burst pipes, right? We've heard that, you know what I'm saying? Pressure burst pipes. Even the best of the best don't always live up to certain pressure in other areas. Yeah. Right? Even though you know what it means to work through pressure. Yeah. Right. And so that's really what I look at from a business management perspective is helping athletes channel that athleticism, right? That who you are, what is that fundamentals of an athlete into all the things that create your legacy.
You're unique, man. Yeah, you're unique because I think most players of your skill set and of that high level really found themselves in a place of uncertainty when the ball stopped bouncing.
Right.
It almost seems like you were already on your path of what you were going to do well before the ball stopped bouncing. So
absolutely.
You know, do you have any recommendations for young guys, pros, or you know, of any age, the folks that are nearing the end of their playing days, how to break down and thoughtfully decide what should they do next?
Yeah, true. It's one acknowledging that it's difficult, right? And I say that because, like, what made you great, Al, and even just because like I said, listened to you guys' most previous show with Sam, it was like that. It's that singular focus, right? Like that singular focus is what creates that bubble. That is like our major challenge, right? Mm-hmm. For me, again, like I even apologize to Coach Williams because it's like in some people's perspective, I could been a person that disrespected the game because I was good in a way that what I didn't have to show up every day and get in the gym to do, right? Like I was going to pick you up 94 feet and I was going to take the ball from you before you got to 48. Mm-hmm. Like I was going to do that and I didn't need to get in the gym to do that.
Where was that born? I meant to ask you this earlier. Sorry to interject here, but you know, that's a unique mentality for a young kid from Chicago, maybe not from Chicago, but for a young kid that wants to be a star basketball player. Very rarely is he thinking, and I'm going to do it on the defensive end.
Right. Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Man, I really, I don't remember it specifically. Like honestly,
because are you older brother or younger brother?
I'm an older brother. I did remember that. I'm an older brother, right? And so that from that perspective, it like really from the older brother is again why I have a 10, 5, and 5, right? I always have more assists, rebound because I always made sure I always had somebody to pass to. I had to make sure he played because he played up with me, right? And I had to make sure I ended possessions. So to either take the ball or rebound. so that way I could get him more shots, right? And or if he wasn't able to stick his player, I got into the possession, right? So that's thank you, Holy Spirit. So that's where it came from. I had to make sure that if I was playing with him, I always had to end the possession.
That's super cool.
Right. Yeah. So he just could shoot if you want to or do whatever, but he knew I was going to end the possession and I was going to get him an open shot.
Okay. Thank you. That's awesome. And then come back. I don't want you to lose train of thought.
Yeah. No,
come back to, the thoughts on your approach to the game and
right. Yeah. So I had the space. Right. And so, like I said, because again, where I was going with the disrespect, because I mentally prepared offensively. Like you was always see me shooting in the air. You always see me moving. Like I saw myself doing it. My dad always spoke, see it going in, see yourself doing it successful. So I spent so much time seeing it where it didn't matter if I had a ball or not, I was going to see myself making an accomplishment. So I removed you from the equation, right? So the more I was able to remove other people from the equation of how I lived on the court, right? So if I knew I was going to be able to stick anybody, right, 94 feet, right? If I knew I could do that, it didn't matter who I was guarding. Like it would become unfair if I did scouting because now I can anticipate where I was going to do, right? But I was going to pick you up. I was going to be long. I was going to be quicker. I was going to stay low and I was going to turn you. That's just, and so I knew if you were better and faster, I had to get closer. Right, and do my work earlier, right? So with Ty Lawson, I was on him before it got to 94 feet because I was following him up to the line till he got the ball. Right, and so with
to this day, that's one of the fastest players I've ever tried to keep in front of me.
Literally,
unsuccessfully.
Right, it was in my senior year, like it was DJ pick him up 94, and everybody was underneath the 3-point line.
Yeah,
that's how we played UNC. DJ pick him up because they had that push out transition. Yeah. So I was picking him up on the run at 94 while everybody was waiting under the paint. Yeah. Right. But that capacity to perform at what I was going to do and not have to think about it off the court helped me to be more expansive with my thought process.
Right. And it's wonderful that you had this plan. I mean, you've always had a plan. And I think that's kind of the most fascinating about it, like using basketball as a means to get an education, using basketball as a means to meet more athletes and to expand your network. Exactly. And I think, and you had mentioned it earlier, like I think I've had a closed-minded approach to it of just I just want to get better at basketball, as opposed to you, it's opening up so many opportunities professionally, financially, and it's just so cool to see.
Yeah, man, and that's what I said is unique. I mean, so if there's anything, I'll say my relationship with God and how that has provided a plan and allowed me to see how my environment are the tools that's creating, right? Because Kenny Daniels is my guy from St. Louis, played at Vashon. We used to play them all the time in his high school. We ended up playing at Northridge, right? And afterwards, I would never forget because I would go stay with him every so often in LA when I would travel, come in and out. And he was just saying, man, you got it figured out. You know what you're doing next. And I'm like, man, I really don't know. I don't have a clue. He's like, all I know is hoop. And this is how I got out of my situation. And all those reminders reminded me why I'm doing what I'm doing to help athletes transition. Because at every point I had a unique engagement and interaction with people who didn't know. And I was able to make a conscious decision not to play pro ball because I didn't want to spend time experiencing it when it wasn't for the right reason. I was only going to play internationally for 3 years to build a bucket of money to invest in me doing what I was doing. And when it became the means to an end and it stopped being fun, right? So it's I couldn't deal with them not paying me money to play overseas. It's that's the only reason I'm here. It's for you to give me this money.
I have to tell you, in some ways, I truly envy you because my last decade of playing basketball was work. It was a profession. It was a business. And it was fun at times. It was enjoyable. There are elements of the game that are always a game,
Right.
But there's no question it was work. There were sacrifices made. I can't count how many birthdays I spent in isolation away from family, so it's got to be a pure thing to have your last basketball memories be just having fun, which is really cool, man. So,
like literally,
I respect your approach.
Man, appreciate it. And it's like even now, because like you asked about what HF, like I coached our HF 8th grade feeder team right now. And that's like sheer out of one instilling playing at a high level for a team, no matter how good you are.
Yeah.
Right. And helping you learn that now it's being held accountable every day of the week, no matter what and influence your dad has, your mom has, and what's your history as a player been.
Yeah.
Like I'm no respecter of person. So you gonna come bring it today. And if you don't, you're gonna sit down and you're gonna watch somebody else bring it who may be playing your position and they're not even your size.
Yeah. That's the way it should be right there. I love that.
And
then you've got so much going on, but do you quickly want to just touch on, we just found out that you just launched the Legacy Athlete podcast. You'll be hosting that. What can we expect from you on there?
It's an evolution of my morning show that I was doing with this not-for-profit here in Chicago called My Community Plan Foundation, featuring Young Money, and Lottery Pick Digital produced that show. But I wanted to more target around the legacy athlete, and I defined that uniquely because the legacy is, whether you look at it as person or property, it's your aggregate of the work you've put in and be able to live on past you, right? And then athlete is any person with an able body. That Just Do It company names that, right? So I'm working on a sponsorship with them, so that's why I don't say that name too often. But they define it as any person with an able body, right? So now if you take that mantra of I'm looking to have and discuss wealth in all its forms, from spiritual, physical, financial, and community, right, and mental, I'm gonna take it and attack it as an athlete, where I'm going to leverage this capacity to be singularly focused and to see in this realm, all the different opportunities and overcome and find what's my thing, right? So every one of us found our thing, no matter our physical makeup, whatever, we locked in on something that we can rely upon as our true north to get us to where we were going, right? And all of us that achieved a level of success that we value, right, that gives us our continued right purpose, right? And when you take those two things, right, I feel now we're introducing concepts, conversations, and topics that people with an able body can actually take that and not just be not lazy, but be amazing, right? Be active, like be elite on that spectrum, right? And so when you're doing that towards your legacy, the fruits will be amazing. And so that's the legacy athlete. All conversations about wealth, because wealth is not just financial, right? It's right, is more comprehensive, is more, it takes all of us to sustain it, you know what I mean, to create it, sustain it, pass it on. And so I'm invoking energy into that conversation, right?
Well said. And much needed. And Sam is our in-house crypto analyst, handles all of that. So
there's two of us.
And I just ask him what he's doing and I follow suit. So we're gonna lean on you too in the future, brother. And congratulations on launching the Legacy Athlete. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Man, appreciate it, because it helps to shine a light, and it helps to shine a light on what we're doing at Lottery Pick. And so we break it up into three main tenets. Is from our perspective, our Legacy Club, our Legacy Clinic, and our Legacy Advisor. And the Legacy Club is essentially a fraternity for young elite athletes, right? To give them this information in a holistic manner. So we do that once a week on our virtual campus, virtual metaverse, if it's a better term, that where we engage them and have these discussions around journaling and just in opening their mind, enhancing the focus, but expanding the view, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the legacy clinic is really our major thing right now. It's the force field. So we do everything from COVID testing. We have some space technology that eliminates COVID off the surface in the air. We're pushing in. We have our mental therapy. All right, so those things that allow people, especially in this day and age, to keep showing up and be the best they can be, right? And then legacy advisor is our take on business management, right? Where we're looking and of helping you see and create your future, really from the business to the digital, and the holistic manner, and making sure that your legacy is intact, is thought of, and you have a way to engage your heirs, right, in the ship. So
amazing, man. We're running deep, so I definitely want to leave enough time for you to share a basketball story, but do we want to fire away a few quick rapid fire random questions, Sam, while he thinks of his hoop story?
Yeah, you got to think of a good story, but we always just go back and forth with some quick hitters. Like what was your favorite hoop shoe when you were playing?
Man, the pro models, and then it was like these Nike and I like Nike Zooms. They had the strap, but those Adidas pro models, I loved them. They had the most grip, and then these Nike Zooms.
Yeah, the patent leather joints.
Yeah, I would say then the Jordan 11, because I had those twice in high school, the patent leather.
Okay.
Patent leather. What's your
But pro models came later when I really had to rely on my shiftiness. The patent leathers was for the style and when I was trying to get jiggy with it.
And
classic shoe,
we were at UCSB too. They went Nike right after that, but we were in
I know, right? So
they had the patent leathers on them, but they smelled like death.
Joey's rotted. I blew through a couple of pro models.
The patent leather just kept all.
It kept it.
Really sealed all the juices in there.
That's facts.
Yo, what was your most memorable game from playing at UCSB?
The most it's really the most memorable is honestly the UNC game, because I cramped up after 10 minutes and I had 5 assists in those first 10 minutes. And 5 assists in those first 10 minutes, and having to sit and watch, like from performing the way I did, meeting Jay Williams, and then seeing Nunn kind of come into his own. Like it was like a full circle moment that really spoke to, I say, my legacy at UCSB. And so I say that was the most memorable game.
What would you listen to when you were getting pumped up, like your hype up song?
Man, gospel music, like gospel music. Yeah, it was. That's my go-to. In high school, it was Louise Go DJ. But once I left to college, I had to, out on your own, you needed them constant reminders, man. And so, yeah, gospel was going to get me going.
You needed, yeah. Santa Barbara will motivate you in the right way.
Facts.
We all need some Jesus going to UC Santa Barbara. Who's your favorite player to watch right now in the NBA, overseas, wherever? Favorite hooper to watch?
Man, the favorite hooper, I mean, it's still LeBron. And because prior to it would be when I would get a chance to see my cousin Jacob Puller. But is
Kansas State?
Yeah, Kansas State, absolutely.
That's in my memory today.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
a bag.
For real. I mean, and I say LeBron just because as always, he consistently played the game comprehensively the right way. Right? Like he's gonna do everything it takes to win a basketball game. So it's like that's what I've always loved about him, is that no, he may not be the best at any one thing, but he's gonna bring it all every game, and he's cerebral with it. So that, and then my cuz, I love seeing family. I love supporting family and friends play. And so him being undersized can shoot the ball like water, and it's gonna lock up. And so those things, I just love a two-way player. And then if I go young, man, really, I want to see, and maybe this is a bias, I want to see Michael P. Jordan, Michael Porter Jr. like pull it together, bring it all together. I think I think he has a skill set, but injuries is like killing him. So that's kind of really something I enjoy watching him play when he's at 100%.
I got you. I got one for you. You've kind of staked your name on as a defender, but who's really just kind of cooked you like that one time you couldn't stop? And you mentioned names, people like, Ty Lawson, Sean Livingston, even in high school. Like, there's got to be somebody that just gave you work.
It like, I don't really subscribe to that notion. Like, it was that just gave. I would say the hardest person. Like,
hardest cover.
So I definitely one of the hardest covers I had, because he was just long and quick and just tough and using his cuts and screens. In the Big West, it was Josh Coyne. I think he takes Josh Coyne.
Area boy.
Yeah, I really had to stick him all over the court. And then just overall, it was Sharon Collins. Yeah, Sharon playing him in the summer league. Because it was him more than Will, because Will, because he was bigger, you could move with his body better. Sharon at the time was thinner, and he was more north and south than Will Bynum. So Sharon, when he got north on you with his size and his strength, like, it was difficult to come from the shifty to there. But like, it wasn't much cooking me. It was just like, because
he made a good shot. I played good D.
Like, you were gonna get it. It was gonna be a tough shot, because for me, I say good defense is I got the steal, right? So if it's not good if you even got a shot off, right? And so, like, I was, again, the size I was able to compete with most people. Like I said, but even Al, he was long. He had a high release on his shot. So once he got to it, was very difficult to contest, because that was my thing. Like, if you got it off, I was still contesting at the point of release. So with Al, you had to be on point at every level. Those are my hardest covers.
You gonna Venmo him or something for dropping
less? I told you, man. Every guest on here has been properly bribed. I will be complimented on this show. Period. I appreciate you.
I don't know. We have literally battles from the first day I stepped on campus. It's
100%. And much like you said earlier in the show, I'm like, yo, this new kid, kind of good. We gotta keep our minutes. This new cat is kind of nice, man. He's shifty. Chicago players are a problem. Man, we appreciate you so much, man. And just to cap it all off, do you, throughout your whole hoop journey, current day, whatever, do you have a crazy hoop story or a funny hoop story that you could share with the audience?
Yeah, crazy hoop story or funny hoop story. I'll say it like this, because I always appreciate my time as a student of the game more, and I'll even keep it with Jake, and so this is just crazy how I've had great experiences, like, with people I care about, right? And I went up there to Manhattan. I forgot where I came from. I think, and this was after he had a rough game against Kyrie, right? So they had, KU was coming into Manhattan, the #1 team this senior year. Went up there, he like, man, I'm gonna get him 40 tomorrow. We getting dub. Went out there, Kansas, Manhattan, they knocked out #1 team. He had 38. We had a party like no other out there. And just seeing someone's perspective, like, I'm gonna do this and go out and execute on it, and seeing the fans like rush the stadium for his, that participation and that just play, that was big. And I think for most of my career, I love to play with people who wanted to go far. Right. And so all those stories, like, remember throwing oops from a half court to Jew, like just things like, I mean, even we beat a team by 90 our senior year. All right. But
bullies.
123 to 33. Like this is like we was playing 2-3, etc. Like it was like I tell my team now, like I love to party on people. Like I love to party on it. And it's why, because it's like sustaining excellence despite the level of competition. Right. And so seeing that sustained excellence out of not only yourself, but out of people you've touched and embodied, where now that kind of like that legacy, that's what I enjoy and really enjoy the most is like passing on that legacy of like sustained excellence and where what we said basically that's the standard of being elite.
Love that.
I love that, man. You might not win no sportsmanship awards for these 90-point blowouts, but,
I want all the trophies. I want all of them.
I want 110 trophies at the end of camp, and we're going to beat y'all by 100. You should have been ready to play. Man, more than anything, man, obviously, I'm grateful that you were able to do a show. Grateful you ended up at UCSB, that we have the bond that we have. But more than anything, I'm so excited for your current endeavors and your future. And I can't tell you how many players I played against, ex-NBA, ex-EuroLeague, millions, not more than 1 million, millions have gone through their hands, and through bad advice, mismanagement, lack of preparation, and lack of education, they don't have that money. And there's nothing more heartbreaking in my mind. And so I think the challenge that you're taking on right now is so important, so relevant. We can't shy away from the conversation of wealth and taking advantage of the opportunities we have and what we can do for the next generations. It's just so important and so vital. So thank you for leading that charge.
I appreciate it.
I'm really proud of you, man. Really proud of you for doing that and for being in that space.
Man, I appreciate it. So it is, and we definitely got to end on the right note. So the Locos, as we started, is really the first example that we're taking on, even like bringing in lottery pick digital more directly. JJ, I talked to JJ, point guard. He's going to help out. Justin Joyner, and because it's a unique, because I'm big on living it and having an example. Right. And so for them at that alumni area, like I'm very intentional around that being an example where we can look at that organization of people who transition well. Right. Like this is the standard setting. This is the bearer of what a athlete transitioning in out of college, in and out of pro. So that I pray that the Talkin Swish is a huge partner of the Locos and what we look to do from that demographic with the UCSB alumni.
Absolutely, man. The Locos program, it'll be more than a TBT team, but a fraternity, a brotherhood, a networking community for our Gaucho graduated basketball players, but also for everybody that loves this game the way we do and is trying to do beautiful things in life after the gifts we've been given. So thank you as well for that. I appreciate you. We've done this long. We might have to bring you back on because I know you're involved in so many things, such an entrepreneur. We could have gone another hour on just current day stuff. So, rain check that one. And thank y'all so much for watching, supporting this podcast. This is a privilege and a joy. I'm loving this. I look forward to these conversations every single day. So D.W, thank you for being on today. Sam Allen, thank you for making this thing real and being my Brody out here.
Really good.
My name is Al Harris. This Talkin Swish. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Happy 2022. We out.